we are going to talk about the visual culture of the Bartala and Kalighat printing, the time when it flourished and grew, and what was the kind of culture that the common people underwent parallel to the rural folk art culture. As we knew that the common rural painters, they had to move towards the villages, the nearby villages, when Calcutta saw the face of urbanization during the just pre and post colonial era. So it was very important to see how the urban aesthetics grew, and at the same time the rural sensibilities survived with minimum conflict. And this is also true that many of the traditional rural art died at that point of time. But that was fortunately a temporary death. It got survived even in today's time. There are evidences of Kalighat painting. So even after the tradition declined, they revived again, and right now we have realized its historical value, and we appreciate them from a completely historical relevance of it. So more than the popular culture, they are museum pieces now, and it's very fortunate that we are able to track the history through the found evidences, though the more it is, the more satisfying it would have been. So the artist block makers and the new hybrid aesthetics, that is our focus for the talk now. So after the very decline, there were the artist block makers from this urban folk art and craft styles who found their new job of making almanacs. The stock blocks, often the labels, handbills, campaign pamphlets, advertisements in leaflets during the same period of time. And the almanacs were reaching out each and every household. So let's see the condition that it's a newly achieved freedom, the political freedom of the country. It's a newly achieved mass literacy, and at the same time the printed material that came with the smell of modernity, the technological empowerment, and the progress was identified and understood through all these things. So they were closely associated, and they were lifting the face of modern sensibilities. So the getting an almanac in hand, which is printed and affordable, was just got associated with the modern life. So anything that is printed came with a new excitement. In today's context, it's very difficult to understand that, because everything can be printed very easily by us now in a domestic condition. But there had been some official branding that was associated with the printed text. It's not the handwritten one, but there's a seal or a printed thing that has multiple editions, that has a marked publisher who is authorized to print that. It gave us some kind of a permit to judge the quality. So whatever was printed, that became authorized, and that got connected to the quality stuff. And it was just a very superficial way of understanding the visual culture and judging the quality, but it was the truth for the time. Consequently, this graphic representations in the form of printing, the hand block printing, and also the mechanized printing, aimed at capturing the regional sentiments for obvious reasons. That when it's reaching out the common mass, then unless you make it regional, specific to a small area, to the culture of a small community, it won't see its optimum success. So that way, it was the intelligent way to aim at the regional sentiments. So all those printed things were getting the essence of the regional culture of that time. There had been printing tradition that got developed into the vernacular languages. So we saw printing press is getting established into different states. They printed things in many different regional languages. Almost all languages got the privilege of the printing blocks that was there. So it was also formed into the industry that served the identity of ritualistic causes and practices of the urban and rural mass. The implementation and practice of printing added a flavor of modernity to the way of living of that time. The common mass got introduced to printed almanacs, advertisements, pamphlets, product package levels, and felt a sense of attachment with anything that is printed and mass produced as a part of the modern life. These were mainly created using woodcut and wood engraving techniques in the beginning, following by black and white colored lithography techniques, which came slightly later, but it took over very quickly. There was a slump in the market, however, even before it could really build up. The rapid advances of the technology of printing that had created the setting for the pertua with his brush and the engraver with his chisel brought about the early death of this art, as the lithograph and oleograph were locked in bitter competition. Nikhil Sarkar, 1983. The practice was significantly massive in scale, as observed from the documents printed and published in vernacular press. The popular art practice, well known as bazaar art, established an individual identity and a style that evolved with time. There had been simplification in style for better communication. Images in general maintained a semi-realistic and unambiguous approach. The technical possibilities provided by the mediums had its obvious influence on the style of image making. We observe a definite flow in the process. Wood and metal engraving as a technique offer the image to have a dotted and linear appearance. Printing as a medium is never as direct as painting. It allowed a limited tonal possibility. Printed and mass-produced images thus fell under a stylistic category with a blatant graphic quality. Lithograph and oleograph in the later phase provided with more tonal possibilities, but the use of color gradient was unexplored. The rise of nationalistic movement in 20th century formed the basis for a particular awareness which came about among the local mass to maintain a separate identity for the indigenous and foreign mechanized images simply through the graphical representations. And as we have seen that the graphical representations were not just the alternative of paintings, it came with a different sensibility, it had a different identity because of the technical aspects that was related to that. So everything had to be counted in terms of pixels even before the introduction of offset printing, which came about to the culture after much later. But still looking at the engraved pieces having cross hatches and dots got introduced to people. So that was more like the graphical quality that that was also liked by the painters, and the paintings were also getting enriched, or they were getting a new sensibilities rather, um, by incorporating all those things. So we have seen that even though those things were made for a very different purpose, the block makers, the engravers who worked on woodcuts, they also incorporated some of those images into their work. After the country's independence in 1947, the new experience encountered new aesthetics, an entirely indigenous experience that was not sought after. The images on indigenous commodities flagged the noticeable popular style. So, very inviting, and it was with a blend of folk and urban flamboyance that was well placed to influence the common mind. So people were looking for the freedom, the self-governance with lots of doubts. So it was not very well expected for many of the people, although they felt that it may come. So it was like a hope and hopelessness, the blend of that was there into the expressionistic sensibility of that time. So it came with lots of political caricatures, satire, to pleasant subject matters, to the utopian village scene, and many other things that was part of the content. But right now we are focusing on the technical aspect that gave it a visual identity. So the graphical representation of those images were basic, mundane, and somewhat crude due to the technological limitations of that time. But surprisingly, that apparent not so glamorous trend of image making continued to remain unchanged for decades. Even this is evident that after the introduction of the much more finer and sophisticated printing techniques, some brands, they wanted to stick to the earlier visual identity, because of the cause that all those brand images came with a lot of trust. So when we try to establish some sense, like this is a 300 years old brand, a new sensibility in the printing technology could have been considered as a spoiler for that. So even after the new technologies were introduced, that older sensibility remained for a very long time. And surprisingly, even in today's time, we see that often the prints are done by using a new technology, but it gives us the visual image that is reminiscent of the past. So they're again like based on the different cultural understanding of people. So many of the popular visuals today is following the similar aesthetics as we explained, in spite of all the technical advancement that they are provided with. In the initial years, the restricted color palette caused by the technical limitations and economy in printing caused added to the style of the new minimalist sensibility that continued for a very long time. Even when the restrictions were lesser, with the introduction of offset press, the old images prevailed. So when we see that the technology evolved over the period, the color lithography, wood and metal engravings as mediums had their own technical restraints, what influenced the making of the images. The obvious basic colors, well-defined edges with the compulsory use of crude contour lines and decorations, which are often not so necessary, but it's necessary to establish a visual identity, still stand as the characteristic feature of a particular taste of a particular time. Most interestingly, there are brands that wanted to keep up with the trust factor, as we know, and the contemporary scene of hybrid aesthetics is an obvious outcome of this mixed possibilities. The boundary is wider than ever before, and the urge to timelessness is a choice and not a compulsion anymore. Ours is an old civilization with a contemporary presence that has made its entry into modernity through the colonial gateway. In each colony, after the initial consolidation of their power, the colonizers tried to educate the colonials into being their collaborators, trying to emphasize in the process their own superiority and indispensability to the colony's advancement. Written by K.G. Subramaniam in 2007, and it's a very important statement that we must ponder over. India was not an exception, but as compared to the other colonies, it had a considerable number of visionary leaders in opposition. The political move from the part of the foreign rulers to control that robustness of constant opposition was initially directed to the education system that has the sole power to manipulate a generation to come under colonial control. The intellectual minds at that point of time realized the immediate need. To catch on the ropes of the new education, whatever is inadequacies, and hoist themselves out of stagnation to step out into the modern world. K.G. Subramaniam, 2007. So, as we said that to catch on the ropes of the new education, even if it's inadequate in any term, it's very important to lift it and raise it from the stagnation, and with that one can step out to a new world that will show us the face of modernity, the modern sensibilities, the new thinking, the refinement in our thinking, the reformation into the culture. So, it's almost like forming, reforming, coming up with new forms, understanding the virtues of the past, and that way it went on. And in this context, again we are coming back to the two main factors, that is the nationalism, the spirit of nationalism and the spirit of modernism, and how the folk idioms are connected to that. So, it's more like when we are going to the cultural diaspora of the folk sensibilities and we are engaging ourselves into the cultural discourse, we are helpless, but looking at it from that cultural context where the whole occurrence of stepping into a modern world, however, which is subject to complex evaluation, but it actually took place in many different ways than one. So, the foremost attempt was made by the nationalists to clear the cloud regarding what is the index of India, how should we recognize India, what is the term Indianness, what gives us the hang and feel of being Indian or something which is made in India. The answer to the moves around it just rotates through the central concepts that includes ethnicity, origin, indigenousness, spirituality, identity, antiquity, ethics, aesthetics, and many other analogous factors of consideration that formulates the cultural structure of a community and hence contributes into the making of a nation. We discussed in past few lectures about the basic methods of conducting the empirical research when we have certain data in front of us and we are coming into a direct contact with that. In our mind, we cannot be totally fresh and pure because as human beings, we hold within us a lot of preconceived notions, our age-old values, the age-old value system, uh, our understanding, the basic ethical understanding, they are the part of it, the basic philosophies, and also our judgment. But above all, we try to connect all these experiences that are apparently fresh and new, and we connect them into the form of stories. And from there, we build up narratives. So, the narrative formation gives us the overview of the context. So, when we bring the uh, phenomenon of naturalism or modernism, we cannot free ourselves from the nationalistic ideas and modernistic ideas that are already there into our knowledge from Europe, from America, from Australia, and all other places, because we cannot travel in time and be completely free from all those preconceived notions, as I called it, and look at it from a fresh perspective. And I do not even find any relevance of that. So, in that way, it's very important to build up the story, connect them, and understand the real essence of it. And that can help us to assess the modern days folk art from a liberal point of view. It's very important to be free of bias when you look at this, and be merciless, be brutally honest in the assessment, and that will do some justice to the existence and growth of the present practice, which is connected to the sensibilities of folk and minor art in the contemporary context. So, the eclectic characteristic that has successfully confirmed Indian modernity of today's time necessitates the maintenance of the culture that proceeded further. And in this regard, the eclectic quality that we associate very intrinsically with the Indian modern phase, or the modern Indian culture, the identity of modernity, the modern time in Indian context, that also needs a proper maintenance, because unless that is maintained throughout, it will soon lose its relevance. So, in that, like keeping all those understanding in mind, we are looking at the existing visual culture from an unbiased perspective. That was our aim. So, the concept of modern Indian identity was not free from European norms that we discussed. In Indian history of about 5,000 years, it is merely 600 years that the country was free from the foreign rules. So, the country has been ruled by Indians for only 600 years so far. That has resulted the modern Indian art and culture to attain a discrete eclectic feature, and that's undeniable for many different reasons. I'd like to mention in this context once again as a reminder that the nationalists, as part of the nationalist propaganda, they say that India has no foreign influence in its culture. So, when they talked about India and her culture, they emphasized on the Indian indigenous identity and they worked for it. But after we see the face of independence and got completely used to the independent governance over 60, 70 years now, it's no longer important to justify that we are free of foreign influences. And especially in today's context, when we are exposed to many different cultural exposures, we have access to almost each and everything. It doesn't really stand very important to see whether it's pure Indian or not, and that is perhaps relevant for the global culture by and large. But still, the contribution made by the nationalist sensibility is important to understand the nature of the history of that time. So, in spite of the attempts to keep up with the global upgrading, modern Indian culture holds much dissimilarities, reason enough to create an anomaly within the global margin. So, the Indian identity is very old and it has the potential, it always stands out visually and otherwise. It requires extensive research and study in the area of Indian visual culture to scrutinize this condition. So, again I'll quote from Parthometer. Since the mid 19th century, the revival of lowbrow or practical arts of India had formed the central plank of government policy, a policy that was later adopted by the nationalists. Kalighat Path or scroll painting, a lowbrow art of urban Calcutta, was the first such to receive prominence at the exhibition in London in 1871. However, the primitivism that identified folk, popular and tribal art in sought all forms of low art as an authentic expression of Indian soul was something entirely new. In addition to its nationalist implications, it embodied the modernist aesthetics that preferred bold simplification to Victorian over ornamentation and the simplicity of village life to the decadence of urban existence. The modern aesthetics in Indian context was considerably associated with nationalism. The core concept of modern art, nevertheless, was synonymous to simple expression, that is, an outcome of free and on time thinking. It is the kind of aesthetic concern that recreates life, that is attached to the rudimentary simplicity. The correlation of this free aesthetic implementation that simultaneously remained obligated to a dogmatic purpose was evident in the Haripura posters series by Nandalal Bose. So, in our following lectures, we are going to see images of Haripura poster which was done for a purpose and understand the aesthetic sensibilities which was part of a conscious aesthetic practice, and that was a blend of the rural and urban folk and vernacular sensibilities with the conscious academic style, and that was very significant for the context. And with that, we'll also see a few examples of the Kalighat painting and understand the different phases of the urban folk art tradition to get a thorough idea of the time and the culture of the time.